welcome to another Good Gut Live. We are live and we're always excited to be here. This is a very new topic. I will going to say this is extremely new because we just came back from or I should say, one of the largest gut health conferences in the world, really.
Mhm.
And we're going to be sharing what we learned with you today. So we are very excited. For those who don't know, my name is James Marin. I'm an integrative registered dietitian, environmental nutritionist.
I'm Dahlia Marin. I'm a certified gastrointestinal nutritionist, integrative dietitian, and we are the co-founders of Married to Health, which is a practice of dietitians, by dietitians, for dietitians to just provide you with all of your integrative nutrition needs. And,
Yes.
I think as dietitians or dietitian nutritionists, if you want to call us that, people don't really expect that we go to these kinds of conferences. I know I was chatting with some of the other dietitians there, and they were saying the first few years that they started going, a lot of people were asking, why are you here? This is a physician conference. This is a scientific conference.
Mhm.
We don't just tell people to eat apples and broccoli and that's it. There is a science to the microbiome. If we're going to help people with their diet and
Yeah.
their nutrition for the gut in particular, we need to know about the gut and
Mhm.
understand the nitty gritty science, the latest and greatest that's coming out in the data with the microbiome as well. So that's why we're there. And that's
Mhm.
why we went. Um, we didn't know that we would be going a few days after we moved. So if you notice our background's different, if you notice we have a few extra bags with us this time,
We're extra tired
we're
for sure.
super tired. Uh,
But Good Gut Live must go on. But
yes,
we are in a routine of Good Gut Live, and we love being here and sharing resources and clips and Good Gut Live
yes.
podcast. So thank you all for
And
listening.
James was like, why don't we just do this topic next week? And I was like, no, it's fresh in my mind.
Literally.
I am going to do this topic this week. So we wanted to share the
Yeah.
top 10 of DDW, which is Digestive Disease Week. Again, it's one of the world's largest gastroenterology and just microbiome conferences. It is an international conference. There were literally physicians and scientists from every part
Everywhere.
of the earth. So every continent was represented there. So many countries were represented there, people coming to learn, people coming to share what they have learned and they've created in their labs or learned in their labs. So it's fascinating. We probably just scratched the surface with the talks that we were able to attend.
Yeah.
James got to come one day and
Yeah.
join me for one day. I was there for 4 days at the conference, but there are literally about a dozen talks happening simultaneously. And within each talk, there's anywhere from 2 to 6 speakers. So you're learning literally hundreds of topics. I can't wait to go back to the recordings and just rewatch some of my favorites or watch some of the ones that maybe I couldn't attend because there was another good one happening at the same time. But from what we did attend, we wanted to bring you our top 10, not just sessions and studies and new data, but there is also an expo. So companies can
Mhm.
also come and showcase what they're doing to support those who are wanting to learn more about the microbiome, dealing with issues in the microbiome. So we're going to not only be sharing the studies, the topics, the data, we're going to also be sharing in our top 10 our favorite products that we
Mhm.
saw in the expo as well, and some of the also the poster presentations, because again, scientists get to come and present their data from all over, and if they don't have a full speaking session, they can present their posters and their
Mhm.
data at the speaking sessions.
And so something I want to say though that came to mind when we wanted to do this topic for you all is one, we part of what we do at Married to Health and as dietitians, as health professionals, is take all of this information, like refine it, digest it, and hopefully give it to you in a bite size or an easy to consume chunk, I guess.
Mhm.
So we like to use verbiage that we think you should know and learn. So it's a mix of like trying to make it easy, but also using good verbiage. And then two, something that's really cool to know is like this is really a big part of us mixing the good of Western medicine and a lot of the
Mhm.
functional and integrative. Because what I do really like about DDW, it's becoming one of my favorite conferences to attend, and I'm sad I only get to attend it one day. I'm gonna really try to change that next year. But it's like unfiltered because you get to look at abstracts from all over the world from people
Mhm.
who are, I mean, it's unfiltered in a sense of obviously a lot of these people are working with institutions, but some are working in private corporations, and just putting out this research that's really cool. And it's up to you to kind of distill it and refine it a bit. And what's really cool is a lot of this, like the newer and innovative research, will probably eventually become guidelines. It's just very early on. So you get to see all this early on, like unrefined research, so to speak.
Some of it just coming to the masses or just being shared for the very first time ever there at the conference. So
Yeah. So
you'll hear about it eventually, but we like to hear it first.
yeah, and so many of the talks you're seeing on the slide, like unpublished, they'll even say like, "Do not share, don't take pictures," and stuff,
Mhm.
because it's like unpublished yet. So
Or
this is
their
like
study, yeah, they're still collecting data.
right, or the study's still ongoing, so it's really cool. We love to see that before it gets to an institution where they're like, "We don't want this. This doesn't fit our narrative, or this doesn't fit in our organization or country or what have you," or it's going to take 10, 15 years before a big governing body finally accepts the research. So going to this conference, we get to just see all that research and absorb it ourselves. And what's really cool, and I'm sure Dahlia will get into this, is like we're kind of doing a lot of this stuff, which is fun. We know other doctors and researchers who are doing some of this and putting some of this into practice, which we totally can do. So it is a mix of like tried and true, but you have to be innovative and do something different, especially when we've been doing the same thing for so long. And that is literally the definition of insanity, right? You're doing the same thing, expecting different results. We're in a chronic disease epidemic. Like we need to do different. We need different while merging with what's worked traditionally, in history. So just wanted to give that piece of context because that's really important and exciting. And it's why we love going to these conferences. And don't get me wrong, a fun a funny thing is like going to some of these conferences, it's a little rough too. Like some of these researchers, no shade for the researchers, but they're not presenters, right? They're not media trained. They're not in the media. They are in a research lab. So they're coming, and we always laugh like, shouldn't they
Well,
get someone else from the team to like present? Because, like, it's literally the researcher who's looks like, I mean, they've spent their life researching and then presents. It's like, know your strengths, right? Be the researcher and then get someone else from the team to present. Because some of it is rough. It's like literally they're just reading off their study, and it's like anyone could read the study, right? Or just give us the study to read and we'll read it. But they can't, so they have to present it, and it gets pretty rough. You need like a
mm,
good dose of matcha for some of it, but as you're listening, you're like, "Oh, that's very interesting overall." But okay,
we
so
got our
we want to
fifth
give
question.
10 top 10 little nuggets
Top
here. So we're gonna
10.
distill all of this into a top 10. And this was really good. So I'll let you. Where do you want to begin,
So,
Talia?
number one, you will hear me talking about new data coming out from the MAST program, which is out of Cedars Sinai
Hmm.
in here in LA in California. But their team is led by Dr. Mark Pimentel, Dr. Ali Rezai, and they are some of the foremost researchers on SIBO and IBS. So I actually attended probably 4 or 5 sessions from their team at MAST just because they're doing it. They're bringing the latest and greatest in data, and they're bringing also options for those living with SIBO IBS, whether it's helping to develop better catheters that are used during endoscopies to collect small bowel aspirates, because the catheters that were available prior were open to contamination. And so they developed a double lumen catheter to be used during endoscopies where the gastroenterologist is going to take a sample of the fluid in the small intestine. That's a product that they helped create. They helped create an elemental diet that is palatable called Mbiota. They helped create a 3-gas breath test to detect hydrogen sulfide ISO. So they're not just doing the research, they're bringing options to the masses, which, I have huge respect for because it's one thing to know it, it's another thing to do it. So when you can
Right.
combine both and do both, I think that's a beautiful thing. I know some people have their opinions about that, but I really feel like if you're the one really understanding the data, you should be the one who's involved in product development. You all know, we go to Natural Products Expo every year. Rando Eric off the street can create any type of product because he thought, people need this, but that doesn't mean Rando Eric knows what he's doing. So I have an appreciation. I have a strong respect for scientists who become scientists, researchers, and scientist inventors because they know what they're doing. So, anyways, this first topic, my number one from our top 10, was new data coming out from MAST about a compound called CS06 that reduces methanogens. And they actually found that they applied this compound in different ways. They applied it first and foremost to just stool samples to see if it could break down the methane gas that was available in the stool. And it did. It actually was able to decrease methane gas significantly. They also then found that when they applied it in vivo in rodents, that it decreased the methane and the constipation by 70%. So that's huge because we have always said methane emo, the methanogenic overgrowth type of SIBO or dysbiosis, it's the hardest to treat. And it is. I can tell you that as well as a SIBO practitioner. My patients with methane overgrowth have high rates of relapse, struggle to eradicate their methanogenic overgrowth. So I'm excited for this when it comes out. It probably won't be available to the masses because when you are developing a drug like this, it needs to go through, double blind placebo controlled trials. And, it's going to take years to see this on the market, but I'm excited about it
Hmm.
because we know currently we're using rifaximin with neomycin, two different types of antibiotics, or you can use herbs as well. You can use motility agents. But if this can really block the absorption site of the methanogens and this decreases methane gas, I'm excited about this. These are the
Yes.
things that excite me, you guys.
And for those of you like, what is she talking about? Go back
Mm,
and listen to our past episode
yes.
on SIBO
Methane.
types or methane. I believe we have an episode just on
Yeah,
methane.
I think we did all the
Yeah,
types.
so if you search methane or Good Gut Live methane, Good Gut Live SIBO, we'll dive deeper into that. You can be like, if you're like, I don't know what I have. I think I have an overgrowth. It might be SIBO. There's different types of SIBO. So we're talking about a methane dominant or what's called ISO, uh, which is a methane dominant type of overgrowth. So go back and look at all of that. So, okay,
Mhm.
so cool. And this new compound that reduces these producing microbes. Very cool.
Mhm. You
Um,
want to do number two?
yeah, number two. So number two, digestive enzymes for SIBO and IBS. And so these have been around a bit, but I think still a lot of people don't really know about them. So this is very cool. So probably the most popular being Fodzyme, but even some new ones, a new company that we found was called Intolerant.
They're not new. I've been using them. I just didn't know they had this type of product.
Okay, that's okay. So clarification. Yeah, I didn't know they had this, yeah, variety and it's in a capsule. So
So,
yeah, go ahead. I'll let you.
for those who don't know, right, if somebody has IBS, even SIBO, they do the treatment, they eradicate it, they're supposed to go on an elimination diet after just to avoid refeeding the bugs that maybe were fermenting those fermentable carbohydrates to begin with. The most popular, most well studied, most common treatment for SIBO or IBS or even conditions like IBD, inflammatory bowel disease, or EOE, eosinophilic esophagitis, is a low FODMAP diet.
Mhm.
It's supposed to be temporary. The elimination of the fermentable carbohydrates, the oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols, should be 4 to 6 weeks with the intention of reintroducing them group by group to identify which size and type of carbohydrate does one react to. So, is it shorter chains like fructose? Is it slightly longer chains like fructans? Is it some of the other ones? Is it lactose? Is it some of these, sugar alcohols like polyols? Sometimes people do that and they find, okay, no matter what I do, I can't tolerate the fructans, which are long chains of fructose. So companies like Fodzyme have developed solutions. So these are digestive enzymes that are taken when consuming these fermentable carbohydrates. And usually, if you can't break them down and absorb them or they're not really absorbable in the small bowel, the small intestine. But if you can't really hydrolyze or break down their bonds, they're either going to draw in a bunch of water and cause diarrhea, or they're going to ferment and produce gas in your small intestine. So you'll be very bloated after eating them. So these companies said, well, we can add the enzymes. If you're not producing enough of the enzymes or you're struggling with certain groups, we'll make enzymes for you. Fonzyme in particular is it's an enzyme that breaks down fructans, again, those complex fructose chains, lactose, and the fructooligosaccharides, galactoligosaccharides. So those compounds found in like beans and soy milk. Theirs is a powder. So their scientists have found that the powder formulation works well because it prevents you from needing to break down a capsule. With Fodzyme, you sprinkle it on the first few bites of the meal. So that way it helps to break down some of those FODMAPs. This works for people. It's a great digestive enzyme. If you want to try it, absolutely try it. There's a discount code here. You can say welcome 23 for $23 off your first order. So
Shout out.
you can
We're
definitely use
not paid by
Fodzyme.
Fodzyme either, guys.
No, but we do get to go to, they do send us
They
some
send us
goodies,
some
and we did
goodies.
get to go to
Okay.
their cool. But yeah, I just like them. I appreciate what they're doing. I do hear back from some of my patients. If they're going out to a restaurant, they don't want to sprinkle powder on their food. Or I have some pediatric patients who don't like the taste, or some of my patients are hyper tasters, super tasters, and they can taste this. I don't think it tastes like anything. I've tried it. I cannot tell what it tastes like, but some of my patients have said they can tell. So then I was excited because, like I said, I've known about this company, Intoleran. I have used it in the past. Um, I've used their starch away product before, and we'll kind of come back to that because that can be helpful for people who have sucrose intolerance and they can't really break down sucrose and they get really bloated and uncomfortable from that. So I went up to them and I was like, oh, hey, I use you guys. And then they started telling me about their other products. And also, they were excited that I was local because they gave me a whole bag full of their samples because they're in Norway and they didn't want to ship all of them back. But one of the things that they were telling me about was one of their enzymes called quatrace. So their quatrace, they said, is extremely similar, using almost the exact same enzymes that are in Fodzyme in capsule form. Now, some people say that the powdered enzymes work better than the capsule enzymes, again, because your
Mm.
stomach acid needs to denature the capsule, or it depends on how long it takes to release in your small intestine. So there's debate over it. I've had patients who have tried other capsule enzymes for FODMAPs and they've found that they work really well. I've had some who said they don't work really well. So it depends on the person. But again, if you really just you don't want to use a powder, you don't enjoy the taste of it, the Quatrace from Intolerant is another example. And this you can buy it on Amazon. You just want to make sure you buy it from their store.
And can I give just context? And so yes, these are very helpful, but also we're well aware, and you should be well aware as well, that this isn't normal in a bit, right? So how do I want to say this? I mean, what I want to describe is just the lack of metabolic health we are seeing and experiencing in this country, in first world countries, and around the world. Really, our livers, our pancreas, and our gallbladders are under massive attack. So, when someone is having liver, pancreatic, and gallbladder, and usually they're you're not having one without the other, right? If your liver's in trouble, your pancreas is in trouble, your gallbladder's in trouble, and that's why if you've been following us, we talk about people that have their gallbladders removed. It's approaching 3 million a year just in the US. A lot of it skews more towards women. So this is happening because, yes, of our nutrition, our diet, our lifestyle, which is then affecting our liver and our pancreas. And our pancreas and our pancreas is where we are creating, as well as in the liver, our enzymes that are going to help us properly break down food, that are going to help us properly, help with digestion and gut motility and our microbial balance. So if you're wondering why now, like, did people 200 years ago need these enzymes? Maybe some did, but not as many as today. And that is because we're seeing such a rise in chronic disease, which is heavily related to liver, pancreas, and gallbladder health. That's why I guarantee most of you know someone who's either about to have their gallbladder removed, has had their gallbladder removed. You know somebody, we all know somebody, multiple people with diabetes or some form of heart disease, whether they're at risk for stroke or had a stroke or have had a bypass surgery, have had stents put in. We all know, I know multiple people like this. We all do in the US because it's so prevalent. It's literally heart disease is the number one killer. And we're wondering how is heart disease related to gut health? This is a big one because when you impede the liver with so much both fat and sugar, and over time, you are also hindering your enzyme production. And when you hinder your enzyme production, you're hindering your gut health. That is one of many, but that is probably one of the most massive connections between your heart being healthy and your gut being healthy, right? It's enzymes. We need enzymes. And it's great we can supplement, okay? But we're not going to just rely on the supplements, right? They're not called replacements, they're called supplements. And so you have to know it's at the root. You should want to get to the root, and you should ultimately want to have a healthy liver, pancreas, and gallbladder. Okay. So very good.
Right.
Um, so let's see. Yes, and so we're getting some comments. So, yeah, I want to try food intolerance test. It's called Impuro. Okay, we can answer that maybe later. But yeah, why does it feel like a band-aid situation? Because it kind of is in a way, but again, it's balance, right? We're not going to say all supplements or all things are band-aids, all medications are band-aids, but but you do want to get to the root. You do want to understand what's going
The
on.
way I think of it is it's almost like you broke your leg, you have a cast and you don't want to use crutches or like that's a band-aid solution.
Yeah,
It's like, no, I mean, it's not. It's you're in process of healing. It just makes it easier to deal with getting around and dealing with this thing that is broken. So
that's a
if your
great analogy.
microbiome is off, there's nothing wrong with using these crutches. They're just going to make
For
your
this
life a little
cast.
easier. Yeah.
But to say, like, "I'm just gonna live with my cast on for the rest of my life,"
And
it's
never
like
do PT and never rehab. Like,
yeah,
no, 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 let's
like
not do that. But in the meantime, in the interim,
right,
we know there's a problem. Again, it got splinted, it got casted. So use crutches, use a wheelchair, use whatever you need to get
right.
around. You might have a temporary handicap pass on your car because you need closer parking. That's okay. There's no shame in that.
But to say I'm gonna use crutches forever,
Forever. Yeah, no,
no.
let's rehab.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Number 3.
For those of you that don't know, Dahlia was our first patient. She struggled with SIBO and IBS and so many GI problems on a day-to-day basis, hunched over, causing so many other issues. We wish we had a protocol in place, a program in place that led her through step by step, inch by inch, and really guide by guide so she had everything at her fingertips. Now we have that. That is our Good Gut SIBO IBS program. You can do it 100% plant-based. You can customize it, but it is one of the only programs that is geared towards plants that can help you customize plants, that can help you tolerate more plants, and really gets to the root of your SIBO, of your IBS, of your ISO, SIFO, IMO, and any other type of overgrowth.
Another great study out of MAST. So again, shout out to MAST. They're doing the
Mhm.
most. They did a trial on those with IBSD comparing 3 groups. Um, so they compared in the trial that they did a group that has certain bacteria that showed up in their stool. So
Mhm.
the bugs that are mainly responsible for IBSD, IBS with diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome with diarrhea, E. coli, Proteus, Maribalis, Klebsiella, Fusobacteria, Desulfovibrio. What they are now finding is the way we've been treating SIBO is maybe a little bit incomplete. Well, traditionally, I would say the greater gastroenterology, GI
World.
world. I've been doing what they are actually trying for actually the last couple years, but I'm glad they're now
Go Dahlia.
conducting trials on it, which is exciting because they're finding, hey, what we've been doing is really just giving people antibiotics or herbs that treat the bugs that are living in the liquid inside of what's called the lumen of the small intestine or even the large intestine. Great, that does get rid of them, but SIBO has a high relapse rate especially because one, people don't get on the right motility agents after, but now they're finding, well, light bulb,
Mhm,
SIBO doesn't just live in the liquid, they are able to move into the mucus that lines our entire GI tract.
mhm,
So they move into the mucosa of the small intestine and of the large intestine. So if you don't incorporate something that is a mucolytic to break down the mucosa a little bit to get them out of there, once you get rid of them in the liquid and you wait a little bit, they'll just repopulate and make a new family and be like, hey guys, go enjoy this food, enjoy those FODMAPs. So they did a trial where they compared three groups of people. They did just their rifaximin, which is the antibiotic that's most commonly used for SIBO because it's not absorbed. It
mhm,
just kind of passes through. It doesn't really change the microbiome at large. It doesn't really affect the commensals or the helpers. It just targets, especially these hydrogen producing bugs. Um, so they use their traditional dose. Rifaximin usually has been prescribed, the guidelines say prescribe it at 550 milligrams 3 times a day for 14 to 21 days. So they did that for one group. They, with another group, did their rifaximin with neomycin. Neomycin is a broad spectrum antibiotic. So if somebody has Methanobrevibacter smithii and they have IBS-C or IBS with constipation, they will add neomycin because neomycin gets into the large bowel and the large intestine, whereas rifaximin doesn't. So they did that, the rifaximin 550 with neomycin. The third group, they gave them lower dose rifaximin, 200 milligrams, and they combined that with 600 milligrams of NAC, N-acetylcysteine, at again 600 milligrams. They did that 3 times a day. And they actually found for those with IBSD, so again with E. coli, Klebsiella, Fusobacteria, Desulfovibrio, Proteus maribus, they decreased those bugs significantly. And the hydrogen sulfide producers or sulfur producing bugs diminished when they added in the NAC. So they looked at a couple different things: stool frequency, and that improved when adding the NAC. They also looked at the stool characteristics. They used an AI app that was analyzing the stool, and that actually showed that the stool form was healthier and better. So less water weight in the stool when you added the NAC. They're actually currently enrolling patients in their phase 2B clinical trial for this. So if you have IBSD, especially if you have sulfur overgrowth, so if you have that rotten egg smelling gas, or if you've been struggling with hydrogen overgrowth, IBS, and it's your second, third, fourth round, potentially consider enrolling in their trial. I should have looked this up. I don't know if you need to be local to them or report in person. But if so, they are in Los Angeles. If not, I don't know if they're enrolling outside of there. I would imagine they would want people in person, but I don't know. So maybe look into their clinical trial if that's you. But I was excited by this. One question I did have for them that I was surprised with, because NAC and cysteine itself is a sulfur containing amino acid. So sometimes when I have patients with hydrogen sulfide overgrowth, they actually don't feel great on that NAC because it's almost feeding their bugs. It perhaps initially does, but then eventually elicits more of a die-off reaction for them. So I'm curious to incorporate this. Again, I can't prescribe antibiotics. I'm a dietitian, but I do use herbs with people sometimes, or sometimes I'll say, ask your care team for this. So I know I talked about this with a couple of my patients this week because I was excited about it. But that was number three, rifaximin lower dose with NAC. Had great response for those with IBS with diarrhea.
okay, and number 4, we are so number 4, it's a Seroquel powder, clinically proven to increase fat absorption. So for those that aren't aware, when you are suffering with severe GI issues, or even, I mean, this is
Pancreatitis.
connected, yeah, going back to liver, pancreas, gallbladder, where you're just not making that lipase, you're not making the needed enzymes and other really cool biochemicals in our body to help you absorb fat. And the way we absorb fat is really unique. It takes you back to advanced nutrient metabolism and the
Mhm.
micelles and our liver, and it's really cool. And so a lot of times, again, these pathways are hindered, these functions are hindered. And so this product is a Seroquel powder, and it helps you absorb fat. And so when you're absorbing fat, you may think like, well, we have an obesity problem. That's the problem. We're absorbing too much fat. Well, there's fats you want to absorb. There's fats in food like avocado and walnuts and flaxseed and other really great fats that you do want to absorb, and also fat soluble nutrients that you want to absorb and properly break down and digest. So this is a product, again, kind of like that crutch, kind of like you're injured, you need a little bit of help just to help you ensure you're absorbing. And so really we see two extreme kinds of patients when it comes to severe GI issues, those who are losing weight without trying and those who are
Mhm.
gaining weight without trying. And it's like, oh no. And again, it goes back to these hindered pathways and what you have going on. And you can be, when it's severe enough, into one of those categories. And both are scary and upsetting because why am I gaining so much weight? And also, why am I losing so much weight? I don't want to lose weight. And that gets very scary as well because you're like, I'm not trying to lose weight. I'm actually trying to eat more, but it's painful, or you're seeing the food right in your stool and you're unable to gain that weight. And it's because you're unable to utilize these enzymes, utilize these processes to absorb the food like fat. So
Mhm.
um
And their technology was really cool. I they Their dietitian was explaining it to me. But the technology that they're using was really interesting because they use these micelle like structures, and that enables rapid absorption of fat without requiring lipase. Again, that digestive enzyme that helps to break down fat that's predominantly produced by the pancreas. So, if somebody has an inflamed pancreas or a damaged pancreas, they're not necessarily making sufficient amount of pancreatic lipase. um, or bile acids. Bile acids also help with fat digestion, fat absorption. So it helps to kind of avoid the need for those. And
mhm,
if you can't absorb fats and digest fats, what they have found is it will lead to rapid weight loss. So, with people with pancreatitis or bile acid malabsorption, a lot of the times they're rapidly losing weight. And not only that, they're not absorbing fat soluble vitamins. Vitamins A, D, E, and K absolutely need fat to be absorbed. So if you can't absorb the fat, you can't absorb those vitamins either. And we do know those are absolutely essential for so many processes in the body. So you really need these to absorb those fat soluble vitamins, which is so, so, so important. Also, if you can't break down fat, a lot of the times you will get diarrhea. The body just is like,
mhm,
I can't do this. Let me just wash it out. Like, just get it out. It's causing me distress. Can't break it down. Diarrhea. So they actually have done clinical trials as well, and they were shown that it boosts absorption of fat and fat soluble vitamins. It improved blood values of essential fatty acids, things like choline and those fat soluble vitamins. And then it reduced GI symptoms. So the first trial that they did it on was for those with, I want to say, cystic fibrosis.
mm,
She mentioned a specific condition, um, but they are now currently running a trial for anybody who has fat malabsorption with GI symptoms. So again, if you want to enroll in their trial and enlist in their trial, you can contact them on their website. It's SERACAL, Serocal. But she also let me see it and smell it. It to me smelled like almond flour, and it looked like almond flour. She said it has a very mild taste. You can take it orally and add it to oatmeal or a smoothie or yogurt. If somebody is tube fed, they can add it to their tube feed as well. And they have made it so that way it can be covered by insurance if you do have one of these fat malabsorption issues or disorders or diseases. So if this is something you're struggling with, I would highly suggest Sarah Cal. I was so impressed with everything that they've done, that it's, organic, that it tastes good, that the science is there. So it's a new product that's really solving a big issue, I would say, that's out there.
All right, number
Okay,
5.
we gotta hurry, come on.
Yeah, we gotta.
Okay, we gotta pick up the
Not that we have to
pace.
hurry, but I
I
know
mean, we
this
gotta hurry,
is.
I need to pick up Layla from school.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we do have to hurry.
Okay, number 5.
5, and maybe, yeah, we'll try to hurry, and you guys let us know. I mean, I think people like this, but also we'll hurry up a little
Mhm.
bit.
All right, so mast cell involvement increases pain and discomfort in IBS. So, you guys have heard us talk about mast cells and histamines and the overlap between histamine intolerance, SIBO, IBS. We know that the mast cells are a normal part of our immune system and they put out immune chemicals that are kind of like smoke signals, things like histamine, tryptase, interleukin, prostaglandin. And in certain cases of inflammatory diseases, whether that's irritable bowel syndrome, which can definitely bring on inflammation, inflammatory bowel disease, your body is like, hey, so this inflammation's ongoing. So I need to help them out. I need to send more and more smoke signals so they'll help me ASAP. So there's more and more release of these histamines. Sometimes it's to the point where just the amount of histamine that gets released, the gut and the body are not prepared for because you make the enzymes that break down histamine largely in the small intestine. So if that's been damaged because you have SIBO or celiac disease or Crohn's, you're not going to break down that histamine very well. So that could be histamine intolerance. Sometimes the mast cells themselves just go haywire. They're shooting out large amounts of histamine, and that's mast cell activation syndrome. But
Mm.
there's definitely overlap between SIBO, histamine intolerance, mast cell activation, and there were several talks and poster presentations on it. I went to the poster presentation on the last day you weren't there with me, and you know the scientists are just there and they're waiting for people to come up to them to hear about their
It's
data.
like 4th grade science fair a
It
little bit.
is, it is. And like there's this one she was so cute, the scientist, and she looked so lonely because all around her people were going to the other presentations because they're on all kinds of things like diet and how it affects your gut or everything, IBD, IBS, microbiome, like all topics. And she was just standing there and she looked lonely. And I went up to her and I was like, hi, because I had marked it on my list of things to see. You can search in the app what is being presented, the different topics. So my top searches were SIBO, IBS, mast cell, histamine, and then of course anything to do with diet and those things. So I marked her study and she was so excited when I came up to her. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
interested in your work. Can you tell me about it? And she's like, yes. And so she did fascinating work in which she
Did you
again
get her
used
card? I should
rodents.
connect with her.
No, I took a picture of her poster presentation. But her work literally showed the irritation that mast cells caused
Mhm.
in the epithelia, the gut skin
Hmm.
itself. It was really interesting because she injected these mast cells into a gut epithelia and they created a circle
Hmm.
around she basically used kind of a mucus like mimicker because, the mast cells are in the mucosa and they aggregated and they created this interesting little circle around it, but released histamine and other mast cell chemicals around. And she did measure inflammatory markers, but super interesting.
It's like a little
So
world. It's literally a little
lots of
world in
talks
there.
about that of, yeah, the mast cell density, how they irritate the nerves in the gut, they cause more pain or
And
worsen pain.
if this is interesting where it's autoimmune, you're like allergies, autoimmune, and or you have GI issues and you don't know what's going on, we did an episode how poor gut health can lead to autoimmune disease, and that would go into more depth. Um, for those listening, search for that episode. For those watching, we'll show you right now, so you can find that episode
On our
on our
website
website
or
or
YouTube.
anywhere you find podcasts. How
Mhm.
poor gut health can lead to autoimmune disease, and that was with Dr. Micah Yu, who's a really cool integrative rheumatologist.
Yeah,
So,
and we talk
amongst other
a lot
things
about
that he is.
histamines during that.
Yes,
But we've done other episodes on histamine as well. So,
yes.
um,
We've also done an episode all about histamine intolerance, and that
mhm,
was a good one.
yeah. So
So
I was
let's,
excited to hear that
yes,
because they've shown it doesn't matter what type of IBS, D or C that you have, you can have histamine intolerance.
yes. All
Yeah.
right, number 6. Number 6. Throne science device for stool analysis plus toilet light. This was very interesting. Dahlia told me about this one where it's a device you put on your toilet and it even has a light. I know
Mhm.
this is funny, but it's really cool. It even has a light, and so it'll take a picture of your poo in the toilet. This sounds silly, it sounds funny, whatever you think, but this is very important because for those that have been following us or work with a gastroenterologist or anyone for when it comes to your digestive health, we want to know what your poop looks like. We want to know what your
Yes.
stools look like, the consistency, what you're seeing. This is very important data. Your stool is not just data, it is valuable, where people will literally pay for healthy poo. So this device measures your healthy poo visually
Or
and
unhealthy poop.
or
Yeah.
unhealthy poo,
Yeah.
and connects it to their app, which helps you analyze the data. And this is great because it's further just data that we can use as gut health dietitians, that your gastroenterologist can use, and really anyone can use. So it almost looks like a bidet attachment kind of thing,
Yeah.
but it hangs over.
Mhm.
Pretty cool. So for those just listening, we're showing the website and showing what it looks like. It looks like a very sleek, modern. It looks like a sleek, modern ring camera for your toilet, and so it's
Yeah,
looking
that's
at your
accurate.
it's looking at your I think the app does look at food as well as
It
your
does.
poo and will kind of just give the data to your care team, which is very cool.
And it's yeah, we like that because, what he was saying is it takes the picture for you. So, most of us bring our phones into the restroom. We know that, but it's maybe
Yeah,
not the most sanitary thing we can be doing. So this takes the photo for you. It sends it straight to the app because you install an app along with it. And then it tracks your stool pattern. And you can share this with your practitioner as well. So it'll send them kind of a history of what stool type you have based on the Bristol chart. You can do the same with your food. You snap a picture of your food, it uses AI to analyze it and maybe help you connect why certain foods are triggering loose stool or constipation for you. So I thought it was really
very
cool.
cool.
I thought it was a
Very
unique
cool.
product. It's not on the market yet. He said when it's out, it will be initially direct to consumer and then hopefully it will hit stores after that. But I'm excited for this to come out. I think this is cool.
And that's kind of a preview of what we're working on too. We won't announce it yet, but just
Mm.
yeah.
Hmm.
So it is we're just using real world data and just real world applications, giving you all better tools. So stay tuned. Make sure you go to marriedhealth.com, get on our email list if you want to be the first to know. And who knows, maybe some of you can try some of this out before it even gets on the market and yeah, do some really cool stuff. So if you want that, go to marriedhealth.com, get on our email list, or just hit contact us and get on our email list, and our team will get you connected. So, okay, yeah, that's very cool. Your cleaning lady will be thoroughly confused if she's looking at your toilet and be like, "Why is there a camera on here?" Uh, okay, you want to do number 7?
Yes. Number 7, I loved this panel. It was a panel of physicians, gastroenterologists, and dietitians. So such a perfect match made. And they were talking about the overlap of eating disorders in the IBS population because we do know 5 to 10% of the population in the US has an eating disorder or probably higher than that has disordered eating pattern. We all have a unique relationship with food for many reasons, but definitely those with an eating disorder, whether that's anorexia, bulimia, orthorexia, whether it's binge eating disorder, it's out there, 5 to
Mhm.
10% of the population. They did say a statistic that 44% of eating disorder patients who aren't in remission will still show up to a GI consult. So they're actively showing up to these appointments. And many physicians, especially I know dietitians, we're trained on how to
Mhm.
detect eating disorders, but many physicians are not. So they'll show up to their GI appointment and maybe the gastro has no idea. They're not asking those questions, anyways, and they're suggesting a further elimination diet. Maybe this person's already anorexia or severely restricting, and then they're told, go on a low FODMAP diet, not understanding the damage that that can do to not only their mental health, but their body as well. So, people are still showing up to their GI appointments despite having an active eating disorder, which absolutely they should. They should be getting care. But it's really important for physicians to know and to ask the right questions, to know what to do and refer them to a dietitian. They also found young women with disordered eating were 1.8 to 4.7 times more likely to develop IBS. We do know there's a strong correlation with early adverse life events with both of those things, with IBS and with eating disorders. So there's no coincidence that there's overlap in the likelihood that somebody with eating disorder, disordered eating, will go on to develop IBS. In fact, they did a 2015 meta-analysis showed that 23% of patients with GI disease displayed disordered eating patterns.
Mhm.
So it's very prevalent. That's about a fourth of people. As a dietitian, I can definitely say it's very likely higher than that, because people often feel like the only thing they can control with their IBS is their diet. So they
Mhm.
first are restricting, like, oh, yeah, I went gluten free, dairy free. Then I started cutting out more and more and more to the point where they back themselves into a corner. I have many patients who come to me and they're like, I literally eat two foods. No joke. I just saw one of them for a follow up yesterday. She came to me eating two single foods, cassava flour and potatoes. That was it.
Mm.
And products made of those things. And now she's up to about 11 foods. We've worked on her microbiome a little bit. It's been a process. And she recognized the disordered way that she was eating, and she wasn't restricting because of an eating disorder, but they found a
Painful.
bi-directional relationship. IBS can
Yeah.
give you an eating disorder. An eating disorder can give you IBS. So I see this so commonly. So I'm so happy that that was a panel. And they also found in one study, they studied a population in an eating disorder facility
Mm.
in an inpatient program, and 100% of the eating disorder patients presented with 5 or more GI symptoms
Wow.
when they were dealing with an active eating disorder. So if you're struggling, link up with a dietitian who not just knows about the gut, but knows about eating disorders, because again, it's so important to have the right care and somebody who just understands your need. So if you're struggling with both, know there are people who can help you with both.
Love it. Okay, number 8, moving right along, Jonah AI stool test. So this was a very interesting stool test that really enhances, I would say, the normal stool test, let's say. And so we've been looking into this and looking at this for a while. And so Jonah stool test uses AI to analyze your stool data, let's say, the stool DNA, and we'll look at all of the recent studies online, look at pretty much everything there is online, while filtering out kind of what's good, what's not, and then giving you a breakdown. So whether you're having that diarrhea or you're more prone to constipation, and then giving you, okay, these are maybe some of the vitamins and minerals you need, the foods you need. However, it's not everything all in one. Like you still, it's like, okay, well, how? Like if we're talking about, I think a perfect example is Dahlia's patient who's like, I'm only eating two foods. And then Jonah's telling you eat
Mm.
300 foods. Okay, how do I do that? That's where Jonah says this, you still need a great care team to help you with this information to go, okay, here's my stool test. Here's what the information is telling me. Now, how do I do it? Well, that's where you see work with Rachel or Dahlia on our team if you're suffering with severe GI issues, or you work with your integrative gastroenterologist, or if you need more help, a rheumatologist, immunologist, whatever you need, whoever's on your care team, pelvic floor therapist. And so you work as a team to help with what's recommended. But very cool take on this. We're going to see a lot more AI in products. Like AI is just here. It's gonna be in everything. It's yeah, everywhere. So it's going to also be in our stool testing, and it already is. So this is a product that's out. If you want our specific link where you do get a discount, contact us, marytalk.com, and we'll give you that if you reach out. So that's what the kit looks like. It's a little box.
I'm going to do mine.
Talia's gonna do it.
You guys know I don't like recommending things I've never tried.
Being integrative gut health registered dietitians for over a decade, we really wanted something. We wanted to formulate something that we didn't have when Dahlia was going through IBS and SIBO symptoms, gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, hunched over after every meal. That's why we formulated Gut Nurture. It was a mix of ingredients that we wish we had that we had to pull from all kinds of different supplements in order to make a supplement that actually worked, that helped with motility, that helped lay the foundation to build a healthy healthy gut microbiome. It's safe for kids, it's safe for women, men, it's safe if you have IBS, if you're low FODMAP, low histamine, low sulfur, the list goes on and on. We really made it a ubiquitous, amazing supplement to help your gut thrive, and it is something we wish we had over a decade ago that you have now. Try Gut Nurture, let us know what you think, and be one of the thousands and thousands using Gut Nurture to stay healthy daily.
I have mine here. I also have like 3 or 4 other stool tests. So
This
I'm
is an
gonna send the
ongoing
same
project that
this is
Dahlia's
I you
been
guys have
working
probably
on.
if you've been following us for a while, I've been talking about this literally for 4 years, but I'm gonna do this. I'm
No,
ready.
not the Jonah for 4 years,
Not
a
Jonah,
project she's
a
been working
project
on.
on stool testing, but Jonah will be a part of it.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna send the
we keep
same
adding more.
sample to several different companies just to see
What
similarities or
happens?
variances. But yeah, I thought that was interesting because there's over 2,000 academic studies on the gut that come out every month. And they're just aggregating that and feeding it to the AI to see how that changes what they're recommending because they recommend certain nutrients and foods and supplements. So
Mhm,
um, that can be an interesting thing. So I'm interested. TBD. I'll let you know. Stay
mhm.
tuned. I'll definitely make a video out of what I think about Jonah and the other stool tests as well.
I see a very interesting question coming in through Instagram.
And we're almost done with our top
Okay,
10.
but
But
we
yeah,
see your questions. Put
we're
them in
going to
if you
get
have
to it.
questions. We see them on Instagram. We see them on YouTube and all that. Okay, number 9, sucrose isomaltase deficiency. So very cool. It's kind
Sucrose.
of
Yeah.
oh, sorry, sucrase
Yeah.
isomaltase deficiency. Yes, spelling error there. When and how to test. So this was a very cool presentation. I believe, yeah, I did look at this presentation as well with Dr. Satish Rao.
I think you were there.
I was there, yeah. And just a really cool way to identify. And I'll let you, and this goes back to kind of
Yeah.
the
So it can
enzymes
either
earlier.
be congenital or it can be later onset or like latent onset where somebody lacks the enzymes to break down sucrose or maltose. And these are two common sugars that are found in definitely like table sugar. White sugar is sucrose.
Mhm.
So it can cause difficulty in breaking down the sucrose that is found not only in table sugar, but also in many fruits, fruit juices, and also starchy foods. So for some people, they don't improve with just pulling sucrose from their diet. They will need to pull other starchy foods from their diet, like whole grains, potatoes, again, certain fruits, certain vegetables that contain sucrose or maltose. And this can happen for a variety of reasons. Anything that damages those cells that make those enzymes. We make those enzymes both in the brush border of our small intestine, and we also make some of these in the pancreas as well. I had a patient, for example, he had IBS probably for a while, definitely had reflux, and he just kept popping Tums. He would take half a pack of Tums a day to the point where there was so much calcium coming in and neutralizing his stomach acid because that sodium bicarbonate and that calcium is basic. So it neutralizes stomach acid. And while that helps with the reflux symptom and the burning, it's not going to help your lower digestive tract because you need stomach acid to signal the pancreas to do its thing and release pancreatic enzymes, as well as the liver, gallbladder, and so many things to happen in the small intestine. So, this patient inadvertently gave himself pancreatitis because his pancreas wasn't squeezing out these pancreatic enzymes. It became inflamed. So, he gave himself pancreatitis, and then he was diagnosed shortly after that with sucrase isomaltase deficiency. So, we had to put him on an elimination diet, and then he was on digestive enzymes. There are prescription digestive enzymes, things like Sucrade. There are also over the counters. So Intolerant has a couple products. They have their carbo starch and their starch away. I've recommended both of these. And they both work quite well. Invertase, in particular, is
Mhm.
the enzyme that is needed to break down sucrose. So, this carbo-starch works very well. I've had patients take it in the past, but the presentation that we attended also mentioned a clinical trial that they did in which they used Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is baker's yeast. So they were actually having people take just straight up baker's yeast. Um, And they actually 80% of them felt better within 10 days. So Saccharomyces cerevisiae is a natural type of yeast in the intestines. That's a commensal or a helpful yeast, and it produces these enzymes by itself. So they supplemented with that and they found that it was helpful because some of the medications or even the supplements, these can add up. You can spend about $200 a
Oh
month
yeah.
if you're taking this with every single meal. Also, they only last in your system like 20 minutes.
Hmm.
So if you're eating dinner and then dessert, you need to redose for dessert if it's later than 20 minutes after. So I'm interested to see what data comes out on Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and if that's something we can recommend, that's fantastic for sucrase isomaltase deficiency. And
Yes.
then they mentioned also testing for it. You can either do a genetic test because it can be congenital. You can do a small bowel biopsy. You can do a breath test if your practitioner can order that, or you can do kind of a gorilla at home test, the 444 test, where you take four, I think it's tablespoons. It's either teaspoons or tablespoons. Sorry, guys, I need to review. I want to say teaspoon, 4 teaspoons of white sugar, and you wait 4 hours to see if you have symptoms. And if you do, then you need to get formally tested. But I mean, I don't know who wouldn't have GI symptoms with even 4 teaspoons of white sugar, but yeah, sucrase isomaltase deficiency is out there. Again, sometimes it can overlap with SIBO. There's enzymes, but there's also Saccharomyces cerevisiae, baker's yeast. So I'm excited to see what happens with that. They're conducting more trials on it.
And
Um,
same thing we mentioned earlier, guys. Like it is also getting to the root of why this happened, and again, finding out like, are you taking too many Tums? Are you taking other medications? Other things going on? Getting to the
PPIs.
root,
Mhm.
PPIs, right? So
Speaking of,
speaking of Reflux Gourmet number 10, it's a liquid and gum for reflux, and this is the what it looks like here. Again, we are not affiliated with any of these products. We
they just gave me a
are,
bunch.
yeah, not a part of any of these products. This is the gum. I want to try the gum. I don't reflux.
I
I
tried
love
it and
gum.
I don't have reflux, and I actually feel like it hurt my stomach
Oh yeah,
because I
yeah. No, I
ate
don't want
after
to.
taking it. I wasn't
Don't do
thinking,
that.
and I was like, "Oh, my stomach kind of hurts." But then I realized I probably shouldn't have
It's
done that.
yeah, sodium alginate, and so yeah, so this is going to help with reflux. Just another way, a liquid and a gum, and they also come in little packets, almost like little gel runners packs. Um, and so it's an alternative to a PPI, right? A proton pump inhibitor. And so this is more of like, I would say like a crutch, another crutch to help you in your recovery. This
Mhm.
isn't something to do forever. You're not going to be like, this is my new gum forever. No, it is a crutch to help if you're experiencing reflux, that EOE, that, GERD, and those symptoms. So this is just a cool product that has great ingredients and well made. And yeah.
And this is more for the person who has occasional reflux. A lot of my
Mhm.
constipated patients will get reflux because they're so backed up, they're so bloated, their bloat will push on their stomach and that'll push acid up into their esophagus.
Mhm.
So, what this does is it kind of caps off the stomach. It creates a bubble on top of something called sodium alginate. That's the active ingredient. So that way the acid can't come up through that lower esophageal sphincter, that little door that's supposed to stay closed. Or if somebody has like a hiatal hernia and they're between manipulation sessions, they can use this. So patients who need it for spot treatment, they have two flavors, mint chocolate rescue, vanilla caramel rescue. They taste really good. They do add natural flavors to this, but they do taste really good. I've tasted both of them. Um, my patients will sometimes be like, "The caramel's so yummy, I'll put it on my dessert or I'll put it in my oatmeal." But I do recommend taking it after you've eaten because you don't want food to break the bubble. You want to maintain that bubble in place, but it does have sodium bicarbonate in it. So again, it's going to neutralize the stomach acid a little bit. And it does have a little bit of calcium. But if you just need spot treatment, if you're like, I only get reflux when I fly, I only get reflux if I'm super constipated, and you don't need it all the time, this is a good alternative to popping a PPI. We do know you're not really supposed to take PPIs for longer than 3 months anyway. So this is a cool alternative.
Okay. Great. So those are our top 10 guys. You see, this is we enjoy these topics. Dahlia especially is, I mean, this is her daily with
I love
her
it.
patients and what she does. So this is amazing. A really cool question coming in. This, I think this has to do with histamines. We're seeing a question come in. My blood pressure keeps dropping while eating and my
Mhm.
heart palpitates badly. I know it's a digestive issue, but can't figure out how to put it to an end without reacting to it.
both of those are very strong histamine reactions. So, um, you need to seek out care to see if you can benefit from taking an enzyme that would break down histamine, or if you need a histamine receptor blocker, whether that's a typical allergy medication or even an H2 blocker like Pepcid, but you very likely have some involvement of the gut, some type of IBS, but those sound like histamine symptoms. So link
Yes.
up with your care team to get some answers.
Or go to marriedhealth.com.
Yeah,
If you don't have a care team, you need a care team, and we can help you with that. So that's very important. You have histamine receptors all over your body, and it's very much mediated by the gut.
a lot of them are in the gut, all
Yeah.
four kinds.
Yep. So
Mhm.
that is histamine. That's where you're like, what? It's I'm eating this, or when I eat certain things and I get a headache, a migraine, heart palpitations, I feel dizzy, I feel faint. I mean, so many things are mediated by your gut. Pretty much everything actually is.
Yes,
But yes. Great
absolutely.
question. Oh, we got to follow.
I'm
I'm
testing
testing
negative.
negative to allergies, and I'm taking DAO enzymes.
It's
Cool.
it's not necessarily an allergy that you have. So even though
Okay.
allergy medications work for it, you don't necessarily come back positive for allergies. You maybe just have aggressive mast cells that are creating histamine, but your immune system might not be reacting to it. You might not have IgE allergies or IgA intolerances, but your mast cells can still react to things that are high in histamine. So
Mm,
um, you might need a little bit more coverage than the DAO if that's not helping. And sometimes you need all of it, a low histamine diet, DAO, an antihistamine, vagus nerve stimulation, and vagus nerve support, since that really connects the gut to the
flow.
brain. So it could be kind of a multifactorial approach.
Yep.
So, yeah, but
Cool.
that was our top 10 from DDW this year, Digestive Disease Week. If you want to hear more about it, we'll be posting it. We love it. I'll be going. Last year was my first time. I plan to go the next several years, but I wanted to throw in a couple quick little bonuses because I was like, okay, I'm just going to quickly mention them.
All right. Rapid fire
Rapid
bonus.
fire. One of them, how the microbiome changes before death. They did small bowel aspirates. These were just people coming in for endoscopies. And then they tracked who died. And they found the closer somebody was to death, one person was like 8 days before they died, had an endoscopy. Their death was not related to the endoscopy. They just happened to die
Yeah.
8 days later. There were changes in the microbiome for those who were
Totally.
closer to death. Certain inflammatory bugs increased as they were closer to death than those who weren't. So thought that was
Which
interesting.
makes
Also
sense.
out of mast. Um, one company that I liked was Modify Health. They are a
Found
frozen
them.
meal delivery service. They have certified low FODMAP meals, and they are certified. And they have all kinds of different specialty diets. So if you need a low sodium diet, a Mediterranean diet, check out Modify Health. They can be a great resource. You can use code IBS50 to save 50% on your first order. But I appreciate companies like this. We're just making it easier while somebody is on a low FODMAP diet just to navigate well. The other one I wanted to give a shout out to is GI Psychology. They are an amazing group of gut psychologists, and they have practitioners who are licensed in a majority of the states, but they are helping those who have GI symptoms deal with either the mental health struggles that come from having GI symptoms or that are causing the GI symptoms, since there's such a strong link. That is why they're called disorders of the gut brain interaction. So, if you're needing support in that area, check out GI Psychology.
Mm.
Um, and then lastly, I was really excited again from MAST just because they're doing research on what I do. But they were talking about next DDW. So next year, 2026, there will be new developments on lowering the antivinculin in the bloodstream, which antivinculin is an antibody that gets developed basically to um, what turns on your gut motility, your gut movement, your microvilli that help with that motility and that movement in the gut.
Mhm.
Basically, what plugs them in, if you will, is vinculin. And post infectious gastroenteritis is a major cause of IBS. Over 60% of those who have foodborne illness or traveler's gastroenteritis can go on to develop, especially IBSD, IBS with diarrhea. And we can look for either antibodies to that cyto antibody, or if it's more involved, it can actually go into the vinculin that kind of, again, plugs in those cells. So they are looking at lowering that antivinculin in the bloodstream to decrease the IBS-D process. So
Very cool.
exciting.
Lots of great stuff. Hopefully, you love this scientific, innovative information. This is what
We're
I would say
nerds.
most of Good Gut Live
I
is
love it.
about in a way. But we do get last episode was my health story. We do get into some story times and things like that. But let us know what
Or
you
our
want to
dietitian talk that happens once a month.
we want to learn more about, where we'd like to do reviews on dietitian talk and stuff like that. So
This month, our dietitians did a review on beverages.
go back
If
and
you're like, "Oh,
take a
is
look.
kombucha is that all the
Actually, we
stuff I'm
haven't
drinking?"
that's not on the podcast yet, but it maybe will be if you're
Coming.
listening to this, so it's coming. Okay, well, thank you all for those asking questions live. The benefit of watching
Mhm.
Good Gut Live every Friday is you can ask questions, we interact with you. That's great. Thank you, Mommy to Angelina, for asking those great questions, and others even on Twitch, getting some Twitch action. Cool. Thank you all, and for those listening, Good Gut Live podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, thank you. We're here for our patients, for all of you. I know we're not the biggest podcast out there or biggest people on the internet, but our patients appreciate it. We appreciate it. We love all of our patients. And it's crazy to think we have over 2,000 patients just in our practice. That's not all the patients we've seen as dietitians. That's just in our practice. So very cool. We
Since
thank all of you.
2021.
Yeah, since 2021. So thank you all so much for continuing to work with us, to connect with us, and to ask these amazing questions. That's what it's all about. Getting to the root, understanding what's going on so you can have a sustainable and wonderful action plan where we're not demonizing plants. It's all about plants where you really need plants, where you're not being on medication and supplements forever and relying on them forever. You're not on elimination diets forever, relying on them forever. It's about understanding what's going on. And so you can eat all these foods again. So you don't have reflux. You don't feel horrible with histamines, and the list goes on and on. Thank you all.
Mhm.
Until next time,
Heal with each meal.
heal with each meal and feel with each meal. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.